At this time, we're going to open the Board of Education meeting. If you could all please stand for the flag salute.
This is the Walton Township Board of Education special meeting for which adequate notice under the Open Public Meeting Act was provided by a notice in the Co-Star, Asbury Park Press, all Walton Township Public Schools, and a notice in the Board Administration Office on April 4th, 2019. I'll take a roll call. Mr. Adenizio.
Here.
Mr. MacArthur.
Here.
Ms. Malloy.
Here.
Mr. Sanfilippo.
Here.
Mr. Sullivan.
Here.
Mr. Wondrak. Ms. Waniak.
Here.
Ms. Connell.
I'm here. At this time, we are going to open the floor for public comment and hearing on the proposed 2017-2020 contract for the Superintendent of Schools.
President Connolly,
Before-
I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Sullivan, we have to open public comment before we can have motions.
Before we begin the public comment portion of the meeting, I just wanted to advise the public that we are here for a public hearing, and the public comment portion of the meeting will include this public hearing concerning Ms. Dyer's contract. Before we begin, though, I just want to make a couple of introductory statements with regard to Ms. Dyer as an employee of this district. She's an employee of the district, and therefore she has rights just like every other employee of the district. She has the right not to be slandered, maligned, or otherwise defamed, and I would caution members of the public that this meeting is an open public meeting and you should be mindful of what you say because it will be recorded, and she does have those rights. In addition, she has the right of confidentiality as other employees, not only in this district but across the state of New Jersey for public employees has. And as a result of that, I've advised the board and reminded them that just like any other employee of the district, she cannot and will not be discussed in a negative fashion that will adversely impact her employment by any member of this Board of Education this evening in public. I just wanted to give everybody that reminder before we begin. I would hope also that everyone will be conducting themselves in a civil, professional, adult manner, and that we could make all our children proud. Since we're going to be recorded this evening, let's make sure that we behave as the way we want our children to behave. Thank you.
So now, with that said, open up the floor for public comment pursuant to policy 0167.
President Connolly,
Mr. Sullivan.
I would like to make a motion to open public comments to 8 minutes per speaker for this meeting only.
Again, just to make sure we're clarified, 8 minutes per speaker and no one goes more than once, or they can go more than once? I'm assuming just 8 minutes, changing it from 5 to 8.
They can go if nobody else goes. I'd like to extend that.
What do you mean if nobody else goes?
If nobody else, if they went once and then everybody made their comment, just like you said, if they get up, nobody else has anything to say, they can extend.
What if that's 4 hours from now?
All right, I will stay with 8 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sullivan will need a second for that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, roll call, Mr. Smythe.
Mr. MacArthur. Yes. Ms. Malloy.
No.
Mr. Sanfilippo.
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak.
No.
Mr. Wozniak.
Yes.
Mr. Adenizio.
Yes.
Ms. Connell.
Yes.
So everyone will have each speaker will be permitted 8 minutes. The rules have been amended for this evening only.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Gayle Marr, and I have many, many jobs. I am a delegate to the NJEA Delegate Assembly, treasurer of the Monmouth County Education Association, president of the Wall Township Education Association, and most importantly, a math teacher in this district for the last 19 years. The Wall Township Education Association, in which I am proud to be the president, is a dignified organization representing both certificated staff and educational support professionals for the past 44 years. We are proud of our accomplishments, our work ethic, and the relationships we have built with our students. I've rushed to get it into 5, so I now have to slow down that I have 8. Tonight we come to you discouraged, disheartened, and embarrassed by the way the district is being led. We are always in some battle that starts with the word why. Why are the summer hours changing for the secretaries? Why do the cafeteria workers need to be outsourced? Why do the bus drivers need to be moved to Howell? Why do paraprofessionals self-assess, but no one meets with them on those self-assessments? Why can't we have a 2013-2016 collective bargaining agreement printed? Why do we need to file 11 grievances in a 2-year period? Why do we need to hire an attorney to be the board's lead negotiator, especially when he did not get us to a ratified contract? Why does one particular secretary deserve a 19% raise? All of our secretaries deserve a 19% raise. Why do elementary teachers need to have spring conferences for all students when our teachers communicate with parents each and every day? Why was there a requirement for teacher presence at lunch and recess last year and not the next? Why are teachers scolded on issues from an unnamed source, and it was more important to put them down than to find out who wrote the letter? Why was the February break taken away? Why is it acceptable for the Board of Education to send out a letter to the community in 2017 blasting the WTEA while negotiations were still in progress? Oh, right, they just can. And lastly, why are all of you okay with the First Amendment rights being ignored in Wall, followed up by an employee's life being altered forever? Although we have spent a great deal of time on these whys, we have never allowed them to come between the responsibility to our students. We are very lucky to be able to support the Wall Township community. From the list of whys, you can tell that Cheryl Dyer does not foster a positive school culture. She establishes goals and committees, but does not heed their advice. It is not her desire to have teachers involved in the design and implementation of important decisions. Morale has hit its lowest level, culminating in losing very talented young educators. The superintendent's approach is top-down and implies that she alone has the power to fix the Wall Township School District. We are not broken. We do not need to be fixed. She does not understand that the faculty and staff is an integral part of school success. Without us or the building-based administrators' collaboration, progress towards great things cannot happen. The last straw happened on September 17th, 2017, when she negotiated a salary increase which was approved by the board without giving the community any notice of her plan. That is why we are here tonight. An anonymous vote by the WTEA occurred on Friday, May 3rd. With 546 of the members voting, 94% of those members chose the option. I do not have confidence in the ability of the superintendent to lead the school district. Cheryl Dyer is leading the district, but in the wrong direction for our students, our school, and the community that we call Wall. We are appealing to the Board of Ed to support the hardworking faculty and staff who continue to make our schools great every day and make the changes necessary to get our district back on track. I, Gayle Marr, on behalf of the WTEA, am notifying the Wall Township Board of Ed that in our recent membership vote, 94% stated that they have no confidence in the superintendent's leadership ability. Never in the history of our association have we conducted such a dramatic measure concerning leadership. We understand the severity of this decision and did not arrive at it lightly. It is unfortunate that the district is in this state as a result of the divisiveness of the superintendent. Thank you.
Is there anybody else for public comment? And as we wait, I just want to let everybody know that there's a second microphone at the top this evening as well, so there's 2 places to make public comment.
Good evening. My name is Monika Butler, and I live at 213 Spinnaker Way in Neptune. I am a retired teacher and administrator. I spent the last 3 years of my career here in Wall Township. I have known and worked with Cheryl Dyer for almost 20 years, and I must say I am quite shocked, flabbergasted actually, that I need to be here standing offering my support of her. In the years I have known Cheryl, she has been extremely hardworking and dedicated professional educator. She is bright, articulate, talented, but by no means a pushover. I have spoken to administrators who have worked with Cheryl in the past, from both Bernards Township and Bridgewater Raritan. And they join me in my astonishment that her credibility is under attack. They provided countless examples of her dedication, professionalism, and mentorship. She is not only highly regarded in these 2 districts, but throughout the entire Somerset County. She left a lasting impression on Bernards Township Public School District, a preeminent district that routinely ranks as one of the best school districts in New Jersey. She oversaw the Department of Curriculum and Instruction and had high expectations and demanded accountability. She chose to leave Bernards Township to work for a larger district where she could have an even greater impact. Her next stop was Bridgewater Raritan Public Schools, the largest district in Somerset County, where she faced a wide variety of challenges. She provided direct supervision and oversight that involved a total revamping of the professional development program for teachers. She provided the teachers with opportunities to be leaders and trainers and to direct their own professional development learnings. Her support for the Special Services Department was unwavering. She continued to have high expectations and to demand accountability, which allowed Bridgewater Raritan to remain as another highly ranked public school district. Prestigious school districts are made better because of her efforts. She left Bridgewater Raritan of her own choosing to come here to Wall. When she joined the Wall Township Public Schools at the end of 2014, she was charged with implementing change. Change is hard, and not everyone is prepared to accept change. Cheryl brought about several initiatives, and each was met with resistance. State-mandated 5-year curricular program reviews had never been completed in this district. Never. She implemented them. Teachers did not have websites or online lesson planning with consistent administrative feedback. These are just a few of the accountability measures that she implemented. Again, change is hard, but I believe that is why she was hired. Cheryl says no, and not everyone is prepared to hear that. But the way she has been described and characterized is completely and totally off base. As previously indicated, I have consulted with numerous administrators in the 2 other districts we worked, and all were outraged by the mischaracterization of this highly qualified, dedicated professional. This smear campaign is both baseless and unwarranted, but I am certain that the board will do the right thing and renew the superintendent's contract. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Pam Tiga from Township. My least favorite thing is to speak publicly. I sat back from this podium for a really long time because I really was afraid of any repercussions towards my children and my husband's career. A career that has really not only allowed me to stay home with my children, but to be truly blessed to be able to volunteer hours and hours for our community and our Township schools. So here I am standing at this podium, very nervous, and because I've always taught my kids to stand up for what is right. So I'm going to take my own advice, and as uncomfortable as this is, I'm going to back the teachers and the administrators who make this school district such an amazing place. Look around the room. Our teachers, administrators took a formal vote, and 94% of them voiced that they have a collective lack of faith in our leader. Although the vote is not binding, it says a lot about the pressure that our teachers are working under. Can you blame them? Our teachers are still working without a contract. We have secretaries making more money than a tenured math teacher. Our superintendent wants a raise and more raises for administrators, while teachers sit patiently and wait. They are the first line to our children. Poor leadership negatively affects morale and management, and ultimately does hurt our children. We have lost many great teachers who left the district not only to teach elsewhere, but teachers who left to work in the private sector. We need to ask ourselves why. Lastly, as I stand here to back up our teachers, I understand Mrs. Butler has come to speak on behalf of Mrs. Dyer. They have been personal friends for many years. Mrs. Butler's husband even landed a job on September 1st of this year. Mr. Butler took a paraprofessional position at a step 12. A new paraprofessional starts at step 2. So with all due respect, please look around this room and just remember that 94% of the teachers and administrators don't have faith in their leader. What will be the future of Township schools? It really is up to us to keep informed. Thank you.
Good evening, Ann Moonen. I live in Township. I just want to quote from a publication of the Co-Star from October 19th, 2017. It was an article regarding Cheryl Dyer's contract that was just signed. Within that article, there was a mention of an email sent from Cheryl Dyer to the Executive County Superintendent, Lester Richens. That quote says, "I don't know why I am agreeing to this, 3 years instead of 5. Perhaps I should retire." I would love to hear it right now, but I think it really is perhaps a really good time for Mrs. Dyer to retire, or better yet, just resign. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Karen Lacy. I'm a resident of Wall. I'm a parent of 2 Old Mill and intermediate alumni who now attend Wall High School. I address you tonight to let you know that I stand with the other parents, the staff, the teachers, and the administrators in their vote of no confidence. I stand with our staff members who don't get a lot of recognition and don't have a voice. Thank you, by the way, for all that you do for our district. I stand with our teachers who are the backbone of our district. Thank you for treating my children with respect every day and preparing them for the future. I stand with our administrators that listen to parents, never talk down to parents, and never condescendingly dismiss our concerns or suggestions. Thank you for your leadership and guidance. I stand with these people because they have earned my respect. They talk to me, they listen to me, they respect me, and they truly care about my children. I trust them. I trust their judgment, and I am proud to stand with them. I implore the board to please do the same. Thank you.
Wyatt Dobrovich Fago, resident of Wall and former student. I'm here tonight to stand firmly against the renewal of Superintendent Cheryl Dyer's contract. As you might know, I do not think highly of our current superintendent. I believe she is wholly unqualified for an extended contract and or raise. Ms. Dyer oversaw the investigation into how and who photoshopped the yearbook photos of me and other students. As you would expect, we were told nothing. Now, as of this week, the Board of Ed and Ms. Dyer is being sued by a person in the school who was told, who was the yearbook editor, as she alleged that she was instructed to Photoshop the Trump references by school administrators. And she also alleged that the school barred her from telling her side of the story. But all this I find very interesting, and I hope we get more answers on in the future. We were misinformed and misled that Mrs., I'm not going to use her name, was responsible for the alleged censorship. Mrs. Dyer, as the lead investigator of the matter, who I said owes lots and lots of explanations of what happened, and I hope we'll get those. But this matter will forever be a stain on the Wall Schools and on Ms. Cheryl Dyer's time here as superintendent. I asked Ms. Dyer, why do you stay here? Why do you want to work in a district where the students dislike you, where the parents dislike you, and where clearly the teachers and administrators dislike you? You've lost the support of the main people that matter most. I asked Ms. Dyer, again, why do you stay? What do you get out of this? This contract, is it about money? Is it so you could retire with a larger pension? What is it? It's insane why you still stay here. Because it looks that way. And it's not about the kids, who I was a kid at this school. It's not about the parents. It's not about the teachers who work very, very hard. It's not about them. It's about you, and that's wrong. Why do you think you deserve a contract when our hardworking teachers here do not have one and continue to fight for one? Are you entitled to one? Are you entitled for a bigger one when they work just as hard, if I would argue just as much harder? The fact that the Wall Township Education Association sued the board because of the gross handling of the contract is a very telling sign. And now, as we all are aware, the other day voted for no confidence in Superintendent Cheryl Dyer. I believe that that's the writing on the wall. I do not see anyone besides your friend here, who I respect, defending you. There's been countless meetings where people have come up here and have aired their grievances. And I just don't think that the people of Wall Township, the parents, the students, the teachers are really that dumb. The superintendent must be held accountable, and the Wall Board of Education members, every single one of you, will have to make a choice tonight, and I hope you'll make the right one. on the renewal of this and vote no to the renewal of this contract. And let me finish by reminding Ms. Dyer and the board before this very important vote of the history in Wall Township with superintendents. If history says anything about crooked superintendents, I think you, Ms. Dyer, will find just like our last superintendent, history will not treat you kindly. Thank you.
Betsy Cross, I live in Wall Township. I'm hoping before the vote tonight you could go over a few things. Could you go over the difference, Mr. Gross, between what a yes vote means and a no vote means? If the board voted no, exactly what would that mean for Cheryl Dyer's contract? Would that mean she'd be here till 2024 because she didn't get the notice last June 2018? Be very, very specific, Mr. Gross. Could you hand me a copy of the contract costs of the contract that you're voting on tonight? I'd like to see it before the vote. Mr. Smythe, do you have a copy you can hand me? I'd like to see it before the vote. Anybody? Show of hands on the board who has the contract costs in front of them. I've gone through this many, many years now, and I notice people vote with things and they don't have the documents in front of them and they never receive them. So I'd like the date and time, Mr. Gross, Mr. Smythe, Ms. Dyer, of when you all received the contract costs and reviewed it for this new contract. I'd like to know the extra pension amounts that these numbers are going to accumulate over the next 30 years when Ms. Dyer retires. I'd like to know the exact amount of time that you've reviewed this new contract. I know the last one was definitely 5 minutes. Definitely 5 minutes. So I want an exact time. 15 minutes, 20, 30. I know the personnel committee is Dory Malloy, Allyson Connolly, Robin Zwaniak, and Mike MacArthur. Those are all the buddies for Ms. Dyer. So I'd like to know what the vote was and when you exactly did the vote to have this contract in this packet tonight. And the date's important because we only got the contract online last Thursday. So if you knew a month ago, 6 weeks ago, why didn't you put it up? Because it looks just as bad this time as it did last time, Ms. Connolly. Just as bad when you were the president. What else? There is no way in the world I would have Ms. Dyer here in September. After the vote of no confidence, 94% of the teachers voted no confidence for those that were in and voted. The administrators, the majority also voted no confidence. I had somebody call me years ago when the kids were getting together, and all the kids were getting together. They said, where are you going to meet? And the kid said, whoever lives the furthest from Cheryl Dyer. That makes a statement. The kids don't want you here. The parents don't. And the staff doesn't. I think it's your time to go, Ms. Dyer. We have had enough. The lawsuit was the breaking back. And back in June of 2017, when we had this yearbook fiasco, I actually wrote in an email to all of you and about 10 people above you saying that you should not be doing the investigation. There's no way you should have been doing it. And I asked for a response, and I never got one. Then I followed up, and all I got was an acknowledgement that you actually received it. Well, that really didn't do any good, because as I figured, you completely made a disaster of this investigation. So another black eye for the school district for an investigation you never should have done. That was all set up by Allyson Connolly. Allyson Connolly actually wrote a letter to the editor on it in the Co-Star on June 15th. I also wrote one, and Kathleen Duran wrote one. I don't know if I'm going to have time to go through them all. I think maybe somebody else can read one. But this was mine. In response to Wall Township Superintendent Cheryl Dyer's email to all parents on June 9th, I'm extremely uncomfortable with Ms. Dyer mentioning she will be personally handling the investigation regarding the Wall High School yearbook censorship situation. I strongly believe that the First Amendment must be protected, and while I am happy that she agrees on this issue, I strongly feel that she should not be in charge of the investigation. Allyson Cadogan on June 15th also put in a letter to the editor. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the insurance on this, but Mr. Gross, can you get back to me on who's going to pay this? Because I certainly don't. Nobody in this room wants to pay this lawsuit by Sue Parsons. I feel very sorry for her. I feel very sorry for Wyatt, and I feel very sorry for Grant. It never should have happened, and it all happened because Ms. Dyer sent something out in September, right after the election, regarding Trump. So it all snowballed from that, and since she wasn't written up, and she was asked to be written up, and the board didn't write her up, you got yourselves in this mess. So I'd like you to get your paperwork in on Friday, and I'd like you to resign, retire, go to another district. This woman seems to have a lot of recommendations for you. I don't know who she is, but sounds like she's got a lot of people that want to hire you back. So go there, because we're done here. I also want to mention that the public presentation for the budget, $77 million, it was never even given ahead of time. We never even had it online. We never had a budget presentation. We showed up and it was voted on. Way to go, Miss Dyer. Way to go. Why would we rehire you? There's no reason to. All these other good schools are given presentations. The public comes, they ask questions, they get them answered. We come here, stone face, hurry up, get out of here. We got to get to St. Stephen's Green. Please, we got to get there. Hurry up, I got to get out of here. That's what happens with this board. Until I saw it for myself of Cheryl Dyer out in an establishment in another town with the Board of Ed members, I wouldn't have thought I would have believed it. I would have thought that ended with James Habel, but it didn't. It's still here. And greedy beyond greedy. How in the world could you even put the new numbers in this contract? Allyson, you should have went back at least to the old numbers, taken away the extra vacation days, and taken away the extra cash payout. That was like more than James Habel got. I don't think you understand the numbers, but we do. What else? I'm looking at enrollment. Enrollment's down 903 students, 21% since 2009. And the budget's up 22%, up $14 million. And I hear there's talk of a referendum. I don't think anybody would give this board an extra penny. I know I wouldn't. 2% here, 2% at municipal, 2% at the firehouse. It all adds up. I don't want to see a referendum until Mr. Smythe is gone. And Mr. Smythe, I'm still waiting to hear back from you on your W-2s, why they don't match your contracts. And I'm still waiting to hear about those 6 days that you claimed you were working when you were not. So I'd like you to get back to me on that. And I'd like it in writing. I think I've been waiting since October on my W-2 question. I'm still waiting on email on Oprah's regarding the 2017 vote, and Eric Brophy's emails are missing. And Mr. Smythe's emails are missing. Now, I don't know what's going on there. I couldn't say if it was criminal or not, but I can't tell if it's criminal because I can't see the emails because Mr. Smythe won't give them. He wanted an extension until May 17th, 10 days after tonight.
Mrs. Cross, your 8 minutes are now up.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. Lisa Rotilli, Wall Township. I will gladly read an article that was written by the President, Board of Education, on behalf of Betsy Cross. On behalf of the Wall Township Board of Education, I would like to address the ongoing controversy surrounding the Wall High School yearbook. To be clear, we, the members of the Wall Township Board of Education, find allegations of wrongdoing disturbing and take the charge that students have had their free speech rights infringed upon very seriously. Besides the reasonable limitations outlined in school policy, we do not condone any action taken with the intent of limiting a student's freedom of expression. This is a bedrock value for us. The Board of Education is confident that Superintendent Dyer with the help of administrators and legal counsel, will determine exactly what happened and why it happened, and will work to provide a proper resolution. As the investigation advances, we will ensure the public is updated in a prompt, appropriate manner. Wall Township is a diverse and vibrant community with many voices, identities, and opinions, all of which this board strongly values and works to fully represent. It is of utmost importance and the imperative of this board that we deal with this issue head-on and moving forward, ensure nothing like this happens again. As we do so, your understanding and support is greatly appreciated. And that was written by Allyson Connolly, President of the Board of Education, and it is dated June 15th, 2017. And now we have another lawsuit on our hands that we will be paying for as taxpayers. Very disturbing. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Robin Cervantes. I live in Wall Township. I took a walk before the meeting tonight, and I walked past Central School, and it says Central School loves its teachers. And I echo that. Parents in Wall Township love the teachers too. And I was shocked when I heard about the vote of no confidence. And in my recollection, I've lived in Wall for 20 years, and I hadn't heard of that ever happening before. And Mrs. Marr confirmed that tonight by saying that it had never happened in the association's history, and that's really sad that it happened now. The person that spoke for you today was talking about change. And yeah, I was part of the board that approved your contract. And the change we wanted was to stay out of the news, unless it was for stuff that our students were doing, the good stuff, not for the bad stuff, not for stuff that's make people put their hands up and say, why does this keep happening to us? And that keeps, it's still happening. I mean, we want to hear about the good things that are happening in this district, and I know there are a lot of good things happening, but yet we're on national news because a T-shirt got edited. And that's ridiculous. It's wrong. Right now, there needs to be change. Really, there does.
Good evening. I'm Kristine Stites from Wall Township. I certainly appreciate hearing from the different parents, taxpayers. I think it's very interesting to hear from a former board member and understand what the motivation of hiring Mrs. Dyer was, and I certainly understand that we want to all be celebrating our students. I'm a proud parent of children that went to Old Mill School and are currently in Wall Intermediate School, and I could not be any happier with the administration and the teachers that I've had the pleasure of dealing with over 8 years. My children are receiving an excellent, excellent education. I think they are afforded the opportunity to do a lot of great activities, really grow as human beings as well as students. I think a lot of the credit for those opportunities resides directly with the educators and the administrators who are working as hard as they can on a daily basis. I think because of their own personal drive, not because of the leadership that they're getting from the superintendent. It makes me sad to say that. I think this is a sad, sad day. Over the past several months, there has been a tremendous amount of conflict and friction in this district that's come to a head. We've been hearing from people in the PTOs regarding conflict with the PTO groups regarding the facility use policy and the disrespect that's shown to some of the most active and dedicated parents in the district. There's been conflict between the taxpayers and the public and the Board of Education and Superintendent with, looking at the issue of the superintendent's ill-gotten contract of 2017. There was deliberate action taken to avoid public input. There's been no apology, true apology. There's no remorse. I find it so alarming. So you've been hearing for PTOs, you've been hearing from members of the public for months now, and as far as I'm concerned, you've now heard from the most important members of this district, the heart and soul of our district, our educators and our administrators. The WTEA, which represents our educators, and the WTSAC, which represents our administrators, have procured and delivered a vote of no confidence in the superintendent's ability to lead the district. It's incredibly sad that it took a vote of no confidence to be brought to the table for their concerns to be heard. As a very involved parent in the district over the past 8 years, it's been my pleasure to spend a great deal of time in the schools. And it has been obvious what a toxic environment has been brewing and getting worse over the past 4 years. I have a hard time believing that the superintendent was not aware of this atmosphere. I also have a really hard time believing that the senior members of our Board of Education are not aware of this. I think that a blind eye has been turned to it, and I find that alarming. I don't think that everyone should have had to been put into this corner. Regardless, that's what's happened, and I think you have to take it very seriously. I certainly appreciate the comments by Mrs. Butler, and I appreciate the fact that she gave 3 years of service to this district, but I'll be basing my judgment on the experience of almost 600 educators and administrators who are currently working in this district, many of them for 20 years and up. The Board of Education represents these taxpayers and these parents and these educators of this district, regardless of what other districts' experiences may have been. What I'd like to know is what we are going to do now that this has happened. I would like the options of the vote to be really clearly explained to the public. I've tried pretty hard to understand what's going on, and if what I've read is correct, if we vote no and don't extend a contract tonight, we revert to the 2014 contract. Article 7 of that contract states that if Mrs. Dyer was not notified by June 30th of 2018, something we had no ability to do because we were working under an ill-gotten contract, she then rolls into a 5-year contract. I mean, that is so perverse. It just blows my mind. Just when I think it can't get any worse, there it is. In the event that we do, in fact, extend a contract that runs from 2017 to 2020, I would suggest to the members of the Board of Education that you give some very serious consideration to understanding that your educators and your administrators do not believe in the ability of Mrs. Dyer to lead the district. What are you going to do about it? It seems like one of the only things you could do is to immediately turn around and notify her by June 30th of this year that she will not be getting a new contract as of 2020. In the event the Board of Education, for whatever reason, has decided that you don't agree with the varied members of the public, for whatever reason, whatever conflict, personal feelings, I don't know, or you feel that you don't agree with over 600 educators and administrators, I suggest to you, you have lost your way. Because this is not 8 people and a superintendent and a business administrator. This is a school district, and you are hearing from every single faction in this district. When people stand up and talk and different groups come up, many of us have never even met in person before, and yet there seems to be an idea that we're, some hit squad that's come in. Nothing could be further from the truth. I would have much rather spent the last 4 months getting vendors for the Enchanted Nights Craft Fair than been dealing with this. It's counterproductive. It's hurting our educators. It's hurting our administrators, and all that leads to hurting our kids. I think our school staff has done an amazing job of trying to float and try to work through this, but they can only battle upstream so long. And I think that time has come. We are at a critical point. It is time to make action that is going to set this course in the right direction. Again, I reiterate, I wish somebody would clearly explain so that we understand. There seems to be a lot of questions, what exactly it is that is being voted on and what the options are, because I would genuinely like to understand it. I would genuinely love to be proud of the actions of the Board of Education, as proud as I am of all the accomplishments that are being made in this district. I have a lot to lose, just like everybody else. I don't win if we don't all win. We all need to be moving in the right direction. This has not been fun. This has not been pleasurable. I have not taken any joy in attending these meetings and saying what I've had to say. It's been incredibly personally uncomfortable. I do so with the greatest respect. I stand with our teachers, I stand with our administrators, I stand with our kids, and I stand with any member of the Board of Education who wants to try to right this ship. Thank you.
My name is Linda Krebs, Walt Township resident, and I would like to express my lack of confidence in Cheryl Dyer continuing as our superintendent. And I implore the board to please do what is right for our teachers, our administrators, and most importantly, our students and our community. We need to heal, and right now, this Board of Education is not allowing us to heal as a community from wrongs of past administrators, and this current administration, in particular our current superintendent, is not the right person to lead us in a direction to benefit our students. Thank you very much.
Allyson Cadogan, Wall Township resident and teacher at the intermediate school. I stand again only to talk tonight for the talk of morality in a building. Entering 13 years ago, I came into a school district that I went to myself and could not have felt prouder to teach in that room. Every single back to school night, I tell my kids that I think it's the coolest thing in the whole world that I get to sit and stand in a classroom where I once was and loved the education that I received from this district. I had the most amazing beginning of a career here where I felt valued. I came to work every day and I felt that people appreciated what I did. And I still feel that from parents. I feel that from my students. I feel that from my administrators in the building. It scared me when I received my last evaluation that gave me the most amazing ratings and told me that my presence just gave the kids such a wonderful feeling and a desire to learn. And the comment that was made to me was, I really hope we don't lose you. A 13-year teacher, why would a district think that they would lose a 13-year teacher? That means something must be wrong. Many of us walk around worrying if we're going to do the wrong thing to upset the wrong person that's going to come down on us and affect us as a teacher. Whether we take a personal day, if it's going to come back to hurt us. And I still remember under one of our previous superintendents, when my aunt passed away from cancer and I entered my bereavement days, on my actual thing, writing back to me a personal note expressing their sincere apologies and sadness for my loss, and I felt like a human. When we say morale in the buildings is down, we just feel like we are humans who deserve a little bit of that respect. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laureen Lynch. As the parent of 4 children in this district, I've had the pleasure of experiencing educators and staff at the elementary, intermediate, and high school levels for over 12 years. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the efforts of these professionals, and I find their vote of no confidence very alarming. This vote of no confidence is a clear indication to me as a parent that Mrs. Dyer has failed in her duty as superintendent. I strongly encourage the Board of Education to take the concerns of our teachers and administrators very seriously and end this relationship as soon as possible.
Good evening. It's Andy Krupa, 2707 Garfield Street, Wall. And the 2 most important things to me right now are my children in the schools of Wall Township and the experience that they have. As you know, I did put in to fill the vacancy on the board. One of the questions was, what do you see as a challenge? And I'm really trying to see things with soft eyes, but it's really disconcerting to me, especially given this last lawsuit that came up, that we have a liability in leadership, and it's time for some moral courage.
Is there anybody else for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close public comment.
Good evening. I have a few comments for the board before you move forward. First, with regard to the contracts, the explanation that has been provided by the attorneys, my attorney in particular, is that the court decision, or the appellate court's decision on March 14th, which concluded that the board had not behaved procedurally in the right way with regard to the public hearing, overturned the contract that they had voted on in 2017, which means that the contract from 2014 was still in play. And that is the contract that I have been operating under since the court's decision on March 14th. What that also means is that there is a renewal clause in that contract. And since I was not notified of the board's intention not to renew my contract last year in June, it automatically renews for a period of time that is equal to the original contract. So a no vote means that the 2014 contract continues, the renewal clause kicks in, and I would continue to serve the community of Wall Township and the school district until the end of June 2023. A yes vote means that the board reapproves the contract that they approved in September of 2017, and that contract ends June 30th of 2020. And the renewal clause would state that the board would need to notify me by the end of June this year of their intentions with regard to a contract after June of 2020. So that is what the vote means this evening.
Ms. Cross. Mrs. Cross, thank you. Mrs. Cross, please, thank you. We're going to proceed. Mrs. Cross, please, we have a very crowded room here, and we're going to proceed with the meeting.
I'd also like to spend a few minutes talking about the role of the superintendent and some of the things that the district has accomplished since December 2014. I'll preface this by saying the district has accomplished these things, and I believe that I have influenced these accomplishments. As stated previously in another meeting, I am not responsible for everything that happens in the district. If I was responsible for the actions of every single person in the district, we would not be experiencing a lawsuit right now with regard to something that happened in the yearbook. I'm going to start first with finances. I'm sorry. I introduced a plan to have a district-run before and after-school child care program that has become a source of revenue for the district. The program has been very successful. In the first year, the program made a small amount of money. In the second year, it was able to pay for facility use, and the district received over $70,000 in revenue. In the third year, it's anticipated that the program will contribute $90,000 towards the use of facilities. Other forms of revenue have come from tuition in students in general education and special education. We have expanded our BD program, and by accepting tuition in students from other districts, we have been able to fund this program, and Wall students have benefited from it. The number of general education tuition in students also increases each year. I created a central registrar for all enrollments in the district, and I have utilized our school safety officers and school safety officer substitutes to conduct residency investigations. Several students have been identified as having been fraudulently enrolled in the past or as having moved out of Wall Township. Those students have either become tuition students or have been unenrolled. The district has had a clean audit every year and has passed various other monitoring, such as NCLB consolidated monitoring, monitoring by the Office of Fiscal Accountability and Compliance, the district report of transported resident students, and a forensic audit. With regard to food service, beginning in 2015, the Finance and Facilities Committee, Mr. Smythe and I began an extensive review of the food service department in order to determine why the department had moved into a negative net position, and it would be in the district's best interest to outsource food services. As a result, adjustments were made to the charges against food service with regard to health benefits and pension, and salary and staffing adjustments were made after comparing the current market for food service directors. The enterprise account is now in the black, and the recommendation was made to continue with a district-run program. With regard to the budget, in 15-16, Mr. Smythe and I were able to create a budget at a 2% tax levy increase by restructuring administrator positions and reducing staff by 6 teachers in light of declining enrollment. In that year, the district budgeted $1.9 million for a new phone and PA system. We were not able to fund improvements to the athletic fields or add a performing arts academy. In 16-17, we were able to maintain staff and class size and use some of the bank cap and health benefit waivers. In 17-18, we were able to include the bleacher project, a teacher of the visually impaired, and the replacement and upgrade of the high school generator through budget efficiencies. With regard to facilities, we were able to fund the stadium renovation and other facility improvements with a 2% tax levy increase by limiting cost in other areas and using money from capital reserve. We worked to find a solution to the transportation facility conundrum in anticipation of the end of the lease arrangement with Clayton. The result is a shared service agreement with Howell Township School District that will keep costs down. and thus allowed the district to reallocate funds that have been drawn down from capital reserve to other projects, including the HVAC project. Phase 1 of air conditioning is scheduled for this summer. With regard to curriculum and instruction, we have added new math resources that are aligned with the New Jersey Student Learning Standards, improved language arts literacy instruction K-5 by adopting a Readers Writers Workshop model, increased and improved student achievement as per the PARCC, AP, and SAT scores, and we have also invested in appropriate professional development to support the staff. I recommended and subsequently facilitated the development of new academies at the high school, including 2 Crimson College academies, the Service and Leadership Academy, and the Performing Arts Academy, which will launch in September of 2019. We are also in the early stages of supporting the development of a Future Educators Academy for launch in September of 2020. The high school made the AP honor roll for the first time under my leadership, and the graduation rate improved by approximately 4%. Recently, it was reported that Wall High School ranked number 90 in the state, and which is the top 3rd with regard to recent combined SAT scores. And the U.S. News and World Report ranked Wall High School number 130 in the state. I worked with the directors of technology and curriculum and instruction and the rest of the administration to develop a plan that would ensure one-to-one technology access for all students in the district during the instructional day. We are now working to ensure access for high school students after school hours. I supported the development of a robust response to intervention program in the district and ensured funds for appropriate staff development and staffing to meet the needs of struggling learners. All of this has happened because of some personnel decisions. We have put hiring protocols in place that include teacher and administrator input and a rigorous process that includes performance tasks to help ensure that we hire the best candidates. In addition, tenure decisions are made collaboratively with input from supervisors, principals, and directors. I observe every staff member personally before making a tenure recommendation. During contract negotiations, I have provided the board with the data and information needed to make informed decisions. The board was able to negotiate affordable increases for bargaining and non-bargaining employees. Very few grievances have risen to the board level from either the WTEA or the WTASC. There is one outstanding grievance from the WTASC, and the only outstanding grievance from the WTEA was just withdrawn by them. Since December 2014, I have recommended for hire more than 90 staff members, 85 of whom are still employed. I recommended for tenure 84 teachers and other certificated staff. I recommended 6 administrators for tenure. I recommended 10 outstanding administrators for hire. I replaced non-represented administrators who resigned pending non-renewal for poor job performance and misrepresenting themselves and their work to the superintendent and the board. I recommended the termination of 3 staff members who put our students at risk, either physically or emotionally. I issued letters of reprimand for staff members who jeopardized the safety of students and who violated district policies regarding inappropriate contact with students. I observed 23 teachers this year, 97% of whom were rated either highly effective or effective. I observed 25 teachers last year. 92% were rated in the highly effective or effective range. And I observe and evaluate all principals, directors, and the business administrators. With regard to school safety, I recommended and the board approved a revised job description for school safety officers and improved the district's ability to respond to threats. The district also increased the number of staff members in this position and expanded coverage to include after-school activities. With regard to public relations, I recommended and moved the district to a new website format. We produced a newsletter and developed and encouraged a social media presence on Facebook and Twitter in order to keep parents and the
Ms. Cross,
community informed
stop,
of
please.
school-related news and events.
No one interrupted you when you spoke for, no one interrupted you when you spoke for 8 minutes. You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome.
With regard to overall governance, I am instrumental in bringing the strategic plan process forward, and I have been implementing the strategic plan for the past 2 years. This includes ensuring that the District Policy Committee reviews policies and regulates them and updates them in accordance with changes in administrative code. I'd also like to take a few minutes to address the bullet points that were raised by the WTEA and the WTASC. With regard to the WTEA and your vote of no confidence, the WTEA gave the following examples. One had to do with cafeteria employees and food outsourcing. The research into outsourcing of food services took place in the 15-16 school year, right after I joined the district, and that was in response to an audit that was presented in 2015, as I said before, which showed a decrease in the net position. After everything was reviewed and the work was done by the FNF committee, the recommendation was made to continue with our food service department as is. The WTEA also commented on negotiations and the length of time that they were involved with negotiations. The WTEA negotiates with the board, not the superintendent. The process was lengthy because the WTEA leadership asked for language changes that they then argued against, and drastic changes to contributions to health benefits, which the board ultimately compromised on. All of the grievances, and they mentioned 11, began as grievances against other administrators. 6 of the 10 were resolved by me, either through granting of the appeal, providing input to the administration for a resolution, or withdrawal of my denial. 1 of 10 was never a grievance, but was an HIB appeal. 1 grievance was denied at the board level and went to arbitration, and 2 grievances were never brought to the board but went straight to arbitration as per the NJEA, and I cannot locate an 11th grievance, so I only am aware of 10. With regard to their bullet point having to do with legal fees, the board made the decision to use an attorney during negotiations in 2015, and therefore the legal fees were not a result of my actions, and the board and I entered into negotiations regarding my contract in 2017 and followed a process that was communicated to us by the Department of Education. They also commented about the academies. The academies that have been pursued originated with the strategic plan, which included stakeholder input. The academic progress of the schools continues to excel for all students. They commented about unprofessional behavior at meetings and that sometimes I look down or look at my cell phone. I do not use a laptop at meetings and have on occasion referred to a policy on the website via my district phone in order to provide accurate information. In addition, I need to respond to district emergencies that might arise during board meetings. They commented about the executive secretary and central registrar. The board approved a revised job description and contract for my secretary due to the fact that she assumed responsibilities as the central registrar. The additional money that she receives annually is approximately 1/3 of what it would cost in salary if we hired someone part-time for this added responsibility. This was a fiscally responsible solution. They commented about my the way in which I handle post-observation conferences with teachers. I conduct post-observation conferences with teachers and administrators according to the guidelines of the administrative code. I prefer to meet with the teacher before finalizing the report in order to obtain their input. Other administrators might choose to finalize the report first. Both methods are acceptable practice. They commented about teacher presence at elementary lunch and recess. It is required that a certificated staff member be present to provide supervision at lunch and recess. This is accomplished by having at least one teacher during lunch and recess, and the board negotiated a sidebar where the teachers receive additional compensation for that. Last year, we paid one teacher for lunch and one teacher for recess during each lunch period. We determined that this was excessive, and reducing to one teacher has saved the district money without compromising safety. The administrator in the building is also a certificated staff member who should be providing supervision. They commented about summer hours for secretaries. The buildings are open until 3 o'clock Monday to Thursday in the summer and until 1 o'clock on Friday. The secretary's contract says that they work 5 hours a day during the summer. It came to my attention that some principals were allowing all of the secretaries to work 8 to 1, leaving them without clerical support for phones, parent inquiries, etc., for 8 hours each week, and I directed the principals to change this practice. With regard to the February break and the calendar, the WTEA has input into the calendar each year. This issue has been discussed, and as the board knows, the recommended calendar maximizes instructional time in the winter months when we might have emergency closings due to weather, and allows the school year to end as early as possible in June when the buildings are very warm. They also had a bullet point about labor management meetings and referred to a meeting on October 26, 2017. This meeting was about communication and problem solving. The association was asked to follow the practice of attempting to resolve problems at the, quote, lowest level between the parties that are actually involved. The WTEA president had continued to get involved in issues that should have been addressed by staff members with their direct supervisors. Mr. Smythe, Dr. Gleason, and I urged them to encourage the staff members to speak for themselves. They commented about communication with the board and questioned whether or not I had provided the board with information about incidents that took place in the district. The WTEA is not privy to information that I report to the board that is confidential in nature. They commented about secretaries and their job responsibilities. I'm not sure really what's meant by this bullet point, but if secretaries are absent for an extended period of time, we make every effort to procure a substitute if the principal requests one. They commented about spring conferences. This assertion is actually unfounded. The teachers schedule spring conferences on an as-needed basis. The principals have been told that the parents have a say in what is considered needed. If a parent states that they feel they need a conference, the teachers should not be denying them. They commented about facility use applications and a soccer team that was given permission to use our facilities. I do not approve the facility use applications. The application that is being referred to was brought to the Finance and Facility Committee prior to approval because Mr. Smythe and I felt that having soccer games every Sunday morning on the field at an elementary school might be controversial. The F&F committee was in favor of the approval. They commented about an anonymous letter. The WTEA is referring to an email that I sent to high school teachers, making people aware of the letter is not giving it credence. I concluded that email by saying that I hope that there isn't any truth to the allegations, but felt that the staff should be aware of the perception. I do not feel that we should ignore information that comes to us anonymously. It should be reviewed and reflected on. They also commented that their lack of confidence comes from my decision to use singing students. Yes, one time I used the 6th grade choir and their rendition of the song Blizzard to announce a snow day. When I heard that people were confused, I immediately followed up with the traditional email and phone call. The students were thrilled to be a part of the announcement, but we never repeated the methodology. There are many examples of the way in which I empower principals, supervisors, and teachers to bring their ideas to fruition and benefit the students of Wall Township, and I always give credit to those who continue to work hard every day to make our district great. In a district this size, it is incumbent upon the superintendent to recommend for hire those individuals who have the knowledge, skill, initiative, and expertise to get the job done. The WTASC had 9 examples for their vote of no confidence. They commented on the facility use policy and the principal's input regarding the ways in which the policy and regulation affected their groups. The principal's input was communicated to the policy committee and the finance and facilities committee of the board. As the board knows, the superintendent does not set policy or regulation. I provide the board with my input and the input of the administration. The principals shared that they believed their PTO groups would object to being assessed personnel costs, and I shared that perspective with the committees. They commented about policy and that they want to have more input into policies before they're adopted. The principals and other administrators are informed of the policies that are up for review in the same way as the community and the rest of the staff are informed for the past several years. The agenda for policy committee meetings is posted on the website, and the policies that are being discussed are also published. The board agenda each month lists policies that are up for first and second reading. All of the policies with track changes are attached to the agenda. The leadership continued to ask for the information to be provided to them in a more direct manner, so this past year my secretary has sent them the Strauss-Esme alerts and the policy packet that is sent to the policy committee each month at the same time as the committee receives it. Prior to our monthly meetings, I ask administrators if they have any agenda items that they would like discussed. This includes, but is not limited to, policy. They commented about social media and that there have been occasions when I let administrators know about misinformation that I see on social media or misinformation that is brought to my attention by others so that they can look into the issue. This is not to say that the information on social media is correct. It's letting them know that there is a perception, that there is a problem, and if there is a perception, I want the administrators to be aware of that so that they can address it. They also commented about the February break and that parents still take vacation during February. I looked at the attendance, and parents seem to take vacations at all different times of the year, regardless of the school calendar. Some parents take vacation in January right after the December break. The administrators provide input into the calendar when the February break was first eliminated. They provide input every year. They were not in favor of the change that eliminated or reduced the February break to a long weekend. However, their reasons at the time focused more on the way in which the February break affected them and their days off, and not the educational value for students. They have not raised any concerns about the February break since the change in their collective bargaining agreement, which gave them additional vacation days. They also commented about a New York Times op-ed piece that happened in the fall of 2016, which was addressed. The article was posted on the website for approximately 3 hours and then removed. I also issued an apology, as posting op-ed pieces is a violation of policy. They also mentioned confidentiality and that I have at times admonished the administration about confidentiality breaches. I meet with every committee involved in administrative hiring to discuss the importance of confidentiality. I take this extremely seriously. Unfortunately, my cautionary words are not always heeded. I have not been proven wrong in terms of these concerns, and I have shared my concerns and disbelief when warranted. I cannot recall any other conversations about confidentiality. They mention that they believe some decisions are made in isolation. In the absence of specific concerns, I cannot address this issue, but as I previously stated, I asked the administrators for agenda items prior to every meeting. Of course, there might be some decisions that are the responsibility of the superintendent. They commented about the Crimson Knight Foundation and believe that it has not realized its full potential. They also mentioned that they'd like more information about events that they schedule so that they can be proactive in helping to support them. The Crimson Knights Foundation has only had 2 events per year, the pep rally and the gala, and I believe both of their events were well advertised to the community and the administration. They also commented about their memorandum of agreement and their collective bargaining agreement from the last negotiation, and that there was a change in language that they were not aware of prior to the document being posted on the website. I researched this concern in my email, saved documents, and board agendas. I also communicated with the chair of negotiations, and we have located an email from Mr. Laughlin where he agreed to the changes that were made prior to signing the memorandum of agreement. Finally, I must comment that it is disappointing that the WTASC has never asked to discuss any of these concerns with me. Thank you very much for hearing my perspective.
Okay. Per the agenda, at this point, I need a motion to recommend approval. Mrs. Cross?
Please, you're out of order. Thank you.
Let's try this one more time. At this point, as per the agenda, I need a motion to recommend the approval of the employment contract for July 1st, 2017 to July.
Mrs. Cross, Mrs. Cross. Mrs. Cross, I will advise you one last time that we are. No, we are. No, you're not running. You are not. You are not running this meeting. We are going to proceed with the agenda. This is a thank you for your comment again. Mrs. Cross, Mrs. Cross, I'm going to give you one last warning, Mrs. Cross. If you continue to speak out of order, I will ask you to leave the room.
I think you should open public comment again. Can we have a motion to open public comment again?
Sir.
This is insane.
Sit down.
Open. Don't tell me to sit down.
Yes.
Open
he'll tell you
public
to sit down.
comment.
He'll tell you to sit down. You're out of order. Thank you.
President Connolly.
At this point, I need a motion to approve the employment contract for July 1, 2017 to July 30, 2020 for the superintendent of schools, Mrs. Dyer, per attachment BOE 1.
President Connolly, I would like a motion to open up public comments. I would like to reopen public comments, reset the time clock for 5 minutes for each person. Peace.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Smythe, you have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments from the board before we vote? Okay. It's procedural. After there's a motion and a second, you have to open to the board for questions or comments on the motion. So it's procedural, the question. No questions, so roll call.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, so public comments open. Pursuant to policy 0167, the original 5 minute, time frame holds.
You should be ashamed. Why at the Burbage Fago? You should be ashamed at the way this board operates. I was a student here, and this is Mrs. Dyer. I'm speaking now. You could look at me. You can get off your phone. Okay? You're a bully. You've bullied me. You've bullied these teachers, but you won't bully us anymore. This is what democracy looks like. This is what people do when they're mad. And you should not be here anymore. Your time is done. Resign. Resign tonight. Say it right now. Do it. I think that's what you should do. No one wants you here. Resign.
Anybody else for public comment?
Ann Moonen, Wall Township. First of all, Ms. Dyer, one of the things you forgot to talk about was the fact that you were given an opportunity to do a number of really great things for our district when you were given merit bonus opportunities, and you did 0 of them. And I think that that says a lot for everything that you claim that you have done. And second of all, I was wondering if the board members, when they vote, if they feel brave enough to inform the public if they are voting yes because they want Mrs. Dyer to stay, to please say that, or if they are voting just because they don't want her to stay. Thank you.
Kristine Stites, Wall Township. I appreciate the opportunity to get up again. I think it's important to note that, members of our administration are precluded from getting up and speaking on their own behalf. I think that the WTEA was very brave in being able to actually speak. I think that both groups were very brave in being able to do their vote of no confidence. I would like to mention that I do think that they made those votes with a fair amount of trepidation, as they are very concerned about potentially derailing their negotiations going forward. I think I've heard concerns about potentially retaliation, being reassigned, a 5th grade teacher teaching 2nd grade math, whatever it happens to be. I certainly hope that the Board of Education and the public will be watching to make sure that their stand does not result in any kind of unfair practices. Certainly, I don't think that would reflect well on any of us. I hope as we move forward, both as a Board of Education, as Mrs. Dyer moves forward, as we all move forward, that we get to a point that we're going to see better, brighter days. And I hope that we get to a point that something good will come out of this. I don't think necessarily, sometimes you have to have some struggle to get to something real. I think it's unfortunate that the last 4 years have kind of culminated in this. I can tell you with a very clear conscience that nobody would have been happier if we weren't in this position, and that what we were really doing was focusing on the job, which is educating our kids. So thank you.
Is there anybody else for public comment?
Betsy Cross, I live in Wall Township. I don't think I've ever heard a more self-serving piece. I mean, why wouldn't you go over this before? And Allyson walked out on it because she probably read it today, so she didn't need to be here for it. I'm sorry. Right, I'm sure you read it. I want to know if you worked on that during work hours. When did you work on that? Over the weekend? This morning? Today? I mean, this is crazy. There is no reason why the contract should have had in it the old amounts. You've cost us $35,000 in legal fees because Mr. Gross is a terrible attorney. Terrible. He actually spent $5,000 trying to hide the food service letter that showed Mr. Smythe misappropriated $192,000. He has now wasted $5,000 on that. So there'll be more to that because Mr. Gross was actually saying some things that were not true. So it will be looked at by the Bar Association because I think it's going to rise to that level. We can't have an attorney that is doing things that he's not supposed to be doing. We can't have attorneys telling us that Mr. Smythe's $20,000 raise was a $20,000 payment was approved in December of 2004 when it wasn't. And then he redacts out who he spoke to. Speak to those board members who you said that they approved that $20,000 payment. Something is very wrong here. When everything happened with Hable, Mr. Smythe should have been gone. How he's here, nobody knows. A superintendent currently working is more hated than one in jail. I mean, you just can't even believe it. What now happened with this lawsuit with the teacher is terrible. And who caused it? Cheryl Dyer. All on her. You need to go. Who in the room would like Cheryl Dyer to stay? I would like you to raise your hand and stand up and say your name. Because I want to be sure you're not running for the board. I don't see one person. And that other lady, I don't know if she's still here.
Excuse me, I believe that per policy that comments are to be addressed to the chair.
Oh, please. She doesn't even look at the people. It's a first now, Miss Connolly. It's a first. Let's see. I think what's going to happen is if we don't have a resignation by Friday, there's going to be ethics charges. And they're going to come fast. So, Dory Malloy, get ready. Allyson Connolly, get ready. Mike MacArthur, get ready. And who is my other one? Robin Zwodniak. And Eric Brophy, I'm sure you're watching. Get ready. Because I'm still waiting for the emails back that went back and forth from Eric Brophy. Something very strange going on here, and you shouldn't have voted on the contract tonight. I am beyond disgusted. I never thought we'd be going through this again after Hable. And it's even worse now because these board members knew better. But all they did was put their self-interests ahead of them and working again for the super, going out drinking, not drinking, I don't know what you're drinking, but you're going out to a bar in another town. I mean, you just can't even believe it. And for Ms. Dyer to not give a presentation on her $77 million budget, are you kidding? What was the reason, Cheryl? Why? Why couldn't you have given us a presentation? You can't just keep taking the money and wasting it. We need to verify every student in the district belongs here. We got to stop driving around empty buses. We're spending over $1.5 million on outsourcing buses, and you're saying, oh my God, we can't outsource busing. Well, you're already paying $1.5 million because you're driving around empty buses at the high school, and then we're paying people to drive to CBA, Mast, all the other schools. We pay $1.4 million than Ocean Township, $1.4 million more. We have the same amount of students. Mr. Smythe can't say why, because he just puts everything in a black hole. Goes in, doesn't come back out. Still waiting for it. Still waiting on your interest income. We have $12 million in the bank. $12 million. And Mr. Smythe made $41,000 on it. Some years, the numbers are blank. I don't know where the money is. Why we had $7 million in the bank and we had no interest?
Thank you, Ms. Cross. Your time is up.
16, 17.
You now have 5 minutes is up.
Okay, start
Your
answering my questions, Mr. Gross.
Ms. Cross, your additional 5 minutes are now
Go
up.
over the contract costs, go over all those questions I answered.
Thank you, Mrs. Cross.
Nobody should be voting on this contract. How many people think Cheryl Dyer
Mrs. Cross.
should in her paperwork
Mrs. Cross, you've now
and
spoken for
retire
over
and
13
be gone
minutes.
and not here September 1st to
Mrs.
give us
Cross.
120 days notice?
Mrs. Cross.
If you agree with that, let me know.
Mrs. Cross.
What?
You've now completed 13 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please put in your retirement paperwork. We cannot have you here in September.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Peter Lair. I'm a resident of Wall Township for over 25 years. This is really a disgrace. Here we are again. I lived through all this. My 2 kids went through school here when Habel was here. We're in the same boat we're in again. This is a business decision. That's all that it is. You people need to operate as a business. It's a board of education. It's not a political statement. You need to look at what people do, and there are consequences to people's actions. You need to follow through on those consequences. And if the person who is the superintendent of the schools, who I don't know, but I see her sitting up there, I see all of you people looking down at paperwork, looking at your cell phones, been to other meetings. It's outrageous. We should have learned what happened with Mr. Habel. And now we are in a situation with another superintendent. Outrageous. It's a black mark on the town, and more than that, it's a black mark on our students. We have a fellow over here who went to high school here, and he was berated by the school, in my opinion, or whoever was in charge of the yearbook. And whoever was, be quiet. And whoever was in charge of that person is responsible for what happened there. So there are consequences to people's actions. Same thing with discipline. When did we hear there was discipline in the school? Bring back discipline. So have some discipline as a board of education and get rid of this person, and let's get on with a new person and make things better in this town. For the town. Not for the teachers, not for the NJEA, not for the NJTEA, whoever these people are. You know, it's for the students. And this all reflects back, going home tonight with all these people talking about what you people decide tonight. There are consequences to your decisions here. Make the right decision. Do not renew the contract of this person, and move forward and get a new superintendent of schools that will make Wall Township a better place to go to school.
Is there anybody else for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment. So back to agenda item number 6. At this time, I need a motion to recommend the approval of the employment contract for July 1, 2017 to June 30, 2020 for Superintendent of Schools, Mrs. Cheryl Dyer, which is BOE Attachment 1.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Are there questions or comments from the board before we vote?
Go ahead, Dory.
Just a couple of comments. I hear a lot today in some of the complaints from the WTEA about the February break. A lot of people wanted the February break, but I can remember sitting in the auditorium and there were just as many people, very passionate, who didn't want the February break because they couldn't have childcare. So, it's fair to blame that one decision on one person. We also received 8 letters from other superintendents who are parents in this district, 2 people who directly, or they report to Cheryl Dyer. We received a lot of support both ways. And I think that one of the letters from the superintendent from Little Silver, being on the Board of Ed is not easy. Being a superintendent is not easy. The public is not aware of everything that goes on. It's bits and pieces. I just think that sometimes things that are said are not always accurate, or when they are explained, not everyone is happy with that explanation. But I don't think there's anyone up here on this dais that isn't here because we want to be here. I have no political agenda. I have children in the school. I work full-time. I actually had my employer receive a letter from somebody in our community trying to get me fired. So someone actually had the nerve to send a letter to my employer, of which, after being there as long as I have, they didn't pay it much credence because, again, it was a lot of things that were completely inaccurate and unfounded and untrue. And the worst part is that that person, who I have an idea of who it is, didn't even write their name, and they wanted to be anonymous. To me, that's very cowardly. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. Any other questions from members of the board?
I actually have something to say. You know, we hear a lot of input on all sides of every issue, and we did receive one letter that I would like to read because it does represent a different point of view than the majority of opinion this evening. It's a letter from Dr. Scott Ridley, who's the superintendent of schools in Hazlet Township and a Wall Township resident. And it goes as follows. Dear Ms. Connolly and the board, I write to you from both sides of the educational equation as a current superintendent in Hazlet, a K-12 Monmouth County district with 8 schools and 2,900 students, and as the father of twins who graduated from the Wall school system, having attended K-12 in 2017. My son, Jeremy Ridley, was the class valedictorian, and my daughter, Jessica Ridley, was 9th in the class rankings, 2 children in the top 10. Both were graduates of the initial STEM program as well. Jeremy is currently completing his sophomore year at Georgetown, while Jessica is doing the same at Villanova. Both are excelling academically and personally. Given my professional role, along with my status as a citizen taxpayer in Wall for more than 20 years, I feel qualified to offer a perspective on your superintendent, Mrs. Cheryl Dyer. I'm not personal friends with Mrs. Dyer. We've never socialized, nor do we maintain any kind of regular contact other than our professional responsibilities. We both regularly attend monthly Monmouth County Superintendent's Roundtable and have crossed paths briefly over the years at various Wall School functions and external conferences and workshops. When Jeremy was waitlisted at Georgetown, I asked her, Mrs. Dyer, literally out of the blue, if she would write a letter of advocacy on his behalf, and she did so immediately. Within 36 hours, she crafted a wonderfully supportive letter that highlighted his, excuse me, I really respectfully listened to everyone. I please ask the same courtesy in return. Nothing more. Are you going to read every letter? Excuse me. I would expect the same courtesy in return. Thank you. Within 36 hours, she crafted a wonderfully supportive letter that highlighted his academic accomplishments and drilled down to specifics regarding his character, his classroom demeanor, and his scholarly potential. Shortly thereafter, when Jeremy earned his Eagle Scout designation, a ceremony with a great deal of pomp and circumstance, she took the time out of her personal schedule on a Sunday to attend the festivities. This is the mark of a woman who takes her role seriously, yet doesn't actively seek accolades or pats on the back for honoring her priorities as she does. The fact that she oversees a district that has prepared my children so well, to me, speaks volumes regarding her commitment to the students of that community. At the roundtable, I have listened to her comments and insights these past few years, and am always intrigued by her take on issues and concerns. In the interest of full disclosure, I have more than once borrowed her ideas for use in my own district, as her suggestions are regularly cutting edge,
relevant and focused regarding what is best for students during their long, meaningful journey through public education. She regularly celebrates WAL, and rightfully so, at the roundtables, and she is always more than willing to listen to the other side of the matter while maintaining her poise and decorum throughout. She is a professional in every sense of the word. Serving as a superintendent of schools in this current day of social media half-truth onslaughts, abrupt, unexpected legislative budget reductions, and the notion that everyone gets a trophy is a demanding, ongoing challenge, a tough job that you have to truly enjoy to do well. I recently asked Cheryl at a roundtable about her time in WAL, and she looked at me directly to announce, quote, "I love the community and I hope to finish my career there," end quote. Cheryl Dyer is an accomplished leader on a multitude of levels, and I hope the board embraces this notion. As a superintendent, I know firsthand what she faces every day. As a WAL father, I am extraordinarily proud of my children's experience in the district she oversees. Retaining her services would be a proactive, positive decision by the Board of Education, and I write this letter in genuine support of that outcome. Sincerely, Scott Ridley, Doctor of Education, Superintendent of Schools, Hazlet Township, New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wozniak. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Mr. Sanfilippo?
Yes. So I guess I want to open with, Mama told me there would be days like these, right? So the other thought that's going through my brain up here was from Forrest Gump, which was, I gotta pee. I just sort of wanted to say, on behalf of myself and I think the board as well, if I can say that, every single person who comes to the microphone and speaks their mind with courage and compassion, the board is not, it's not falling on deaf ears. When someone comes and says that, you know, they lived in this school for 3 years and now come back and teach in this school, I feel the same way sitting here on the Board of Education. It's the room is a little bit different than it was last year, and certainly different than, well, it was actually the same last year as when I went here, but these are things that we do on the Board of Education. We change the room. We have some things planned to change the buildings and do some things that are really great for the district. I do think a lot of that gets lost, and I do echo the sentiments of we want to have better things on the Board of Education in the newspaper. And at the same point in time, you know, I would like to thank, you know, the teachers, and I would like to thank the administration, and I would like to thank every single person who works in this district, including the superintendent, and including every single person on the Board of Education here who deal with a very tough deck, right? So we have a lot of components and a lot of moving parts. When this contract was initially approved a couple of years ago, I was not on the Board of Education, and I was out in the audience, and I was sort of feeling the same way as you were. And shortly after, you know, coming and running for election and becoming a part of the Board of Education, there are some things that change a little bit, and there are some things that remain the same. At the same point in time, what I try to have like a paramount feeling is that I don't want to do anything personally that does anything to harm the district. And also at the same point in time, Board of Education, I believe we have to work together in regards for different things in order for, you know, for this district to really work. Having said that, that was just my feelings, and thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, seeing none.
Take a roll call. Mr. Anizia.
I have to abstain due to a family member working in the district.
Mr. MacArthur.
Yes.
Ms. Malloy.
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo.
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak.
Yes.
Ms. Wozniak.
Yes.
Ms. Connolly.
Yes. Motion carries. No, I would like to thank everybody for your time and your input this evening. And at this point, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.